So I am so happy to be here in Flagstaff, and I'm happy for many reasons. For starters, as Nick mentioned, I live in Southern California in the mountains, and I teach in quite a different kind of microclimate and georegion than the one we live in, which would be San Bernardino, yes, where those shootings occurred, yes. Most of the news you hear about from San Bernardino is of the stay out of that ghetto kind. I mean, let's be frank. At the same time, San Bernardino is vibrant and really undergoing a level of poetic awakening and excitement that I think probably a little grandly, but not too exaggeratedly, mimics something like the Beats all those years ago. I think that there is a wonderful nexus of political and social justice going on that is recognizing that poetry is not only the stuff of the privileged and those who have the luxury of free time. And I imagine even you in this room, even you in the MFA, don't have all that much luxury of free time. You have to make the time. But more than that, I think that that region is a region that demonstrates that poetry is essential. It is essential. It is spiritual, it is lifeblood, it is Vedic, it enables us, like great humor, to see aspects of ourselves that we might rather turn away from and somehow come to grips with them. As Nicole just beautifully, if erroneously, demonstrated. So one reason I'm so glad to be here in Flag is that this energy that I'm describing in San Bernardino is so apparent here. It's just a thriving and vibrant art scene. And I know there are folks here from all walks of life and all different programs, and it is just so thrilling to me. I feel very honored to be here on a night when a poet from Tucson and an amazing performer from Tucson is here with all the lovely, beautiful, really, I have to say, hearts in the right place, people from NAU. So it's just so exciting for me. I do want to thank, and then I'll read some short poems, the Narrow Chimney reading series, Jesse Sensavar and James J. You guys are awesome. This reading series, God, if only we had more reading series like this one, and I know the work it is. So thank you. I want to recognize Stacy also, who I know is doing some of the behind the scenes work. It means a lot to me to read for your series. I've always really admired it and think it's just like, yes, it's right, it's performance in the right direction. I also wanted to thank all the really generous NAU faculty I met, particularly those who came out last night, Ann Cummins, who was not scared by the blizzard, nor was Lawrence Lenhart, Aaron Stalka, and Justin Vigo. So thank you so much. I've already had lots of ideas for writing from our conversations last night. And last but certainly not least, thank you, Isaac, for sharing the mic with me. You have a real treat in store for you when Isaac gets up here. And this isn't last, this isn't first, this is sort of always Nicole. Thank you for your hospitality, which is legendary, but she's always upping her game, so every time I come, I think, this is beyond legendary hospitality. This is new genres of hospitality. In this beautiful, beautiful, and utterly unique place. When I come and visit you, Nick, whatever voice of poetry I have inside me dances a little jig and goes, we're home, we're home. I owe so much of what I've written to you. And island. I don't need to tell you guys how lucky you are to have her here. You know this. Okay, so last night I learned that one of the recent major fires in Flagstaff, and was it, Lawrence, the Schultz fire? Yes. Took out a large portion of already rare and increasingly rarer alligator juniper trees. And this has happened in part, I learned that this fire was caused by human hands, but it has also happened because those alligator junipers live in sky islands. And as you know, here in Arizona, you have some of the most spectacular sky islands in the entire country. What is a sky island? Well, as you remember, it is any mountain in which the life and diversity at elevation is radically different from that in the valleys. So they really are like islands in the sky. This is where some of our most endangered species, like the alligator juniper, reside, still able to. And these places are beautiful. They have upside down deserts. They have such a binary relationship. I'm not sure it's a symbiotic one, but with the lands below. And I happen to live on such a sky island myself. So I'd like to start tonight in honoring Flagstaff and all those alligator junipers that were lost with some poems out of my hopefully soon forthcoming book, Sky Island. And this is a project that is looking at the relationship between the magnificent wilds we have left among us and the isolation, I think, and very deep soul searching as humans we need to put ourselves through to, I think, sort of earn the right to even be in the wild at all anymore. So this series of poems focuses on the 1999 Juniper Complex fire, which happened in Joshua Tree National Park. It had just changed to a park. And this fire, not because of the native species, but because of invasive species, burned 14,000 acres in 3 days. Now, this is unheard of in high and low desert. The plants are simply too far apart for fire, even in high winds, to travel like that. But a long time ago, folks brought in grasses, largely to feed cattle. One of those grasses I have yet to encounter in Flagstaff, so count yourselves lucky. I maybe just didn't encounter them. Is cheatgrass, right? So like if you go to Zion National Park, you wear socks, your ankles would bleed for days. And cheatgrass is one of the most guilty carriers of fire in our sky islands. So this poem is trying to sort of see the reality of fire carrying from the perspective of cheatgrass. From a weed's perspective, the heist prefers sheaf, but will do with seed let loose in wet wintered decades. Truly avid El Niños are also enough, and the rest conspires unwittingly. Dunes mislaid by mislaid rains that inexorably seed their ground to drought's special assorted strain of misdeeds, parch, mirage, bluff, blooming in open panicles of 5 to 8 florets tipped with awns the tint of mussed sunset, sheaves some shades of rest, backlit by the simple wishes of weeds, to get wet, then root in, to get, then get gripped, to estrange, then establish, to begin, then begin, to reject the unit of measure, the mode of description, the various, after all, dull derivative names, cheatgrass, June grass, drooping brome, early chess, wild oats, military grass, which spell ill, spell disavowal, Spell errant, spell exile, spell hell-bent on survival, spell home, always elsewhere, or else, always, and light enough to travel. Spell haste. But the name for the ocean-sky oscillation that makes this grass possible in a high desert, filling interstices, constituting field, El Niño, the Christ child. While the grass's provisions of pillared tinder, its revisions risable in rising winds, its floral scorias, its scored choreographies of the range of wild, the scale of take, the themes inherited in a namesake's dreams, spread. From tree to tree, grass will be, wind be cinder, cheat land, carry fire, conspire to change the schemers' names, change the child, take the heat, slake the liar, change the fire regimes. Thank you so much. I will read one more Sky Island poem. This one is about scorpions in the Mojave Desert. And this is a particular species of scorpions that have adolescence pretty rough because they ride their mother's backs until they can start to luminesce. And then that luminescence seems to function chemically to encourage them to get off their mother's backs, but they won't leave their mother's backs of their own accord until they go through their first molt. And once they molt, the lights go out. My older son is 13. I return to this metaphor a lot. Okay, and the baby scorpions are called scorpions. This is first molt lullaby. Come out, scorpion. Come off your mother's back. Is the outside tightening? Has your ride gone slack? You've intuited the split. You're piled on so high. Brothers, sisters, all your litter, and you haven't found your lights. Come out, scorpion. Come out onto the sands. First your mouth, then your legs, and then your curl behind. Come out, scorpion. Your lights once found grow dim. You will no longer luminous, all of you who are born seriatim and alive. Yes, the split is coming, but you will come out of it. Yes, the land is coming up, and coming up fast. So come down, scorpion, come down soon. You've intuited horizon, intuited the moon, intuited its stretch to you where white is going gray. When the split begins, scorpion, stretch in the same way, adamant as gravity in the face of all that waits, in the face of all that splits, in the face of all that sets. If you would, in your new carapace move, until the split regrets itself, tucks itself away into interim growth in star constellation cocoon. Scorpion, you're in good company. Scorpion, simply thicken, simply swoon, and it's done. It begins with your own face, as if to keep you safe. A split unwished yet devout as cough or self, or torrid molten ocean shelf flickering, crooning from its troughs. Come out, scorpion, come off. So Nicole very kindly mentioned my first book of poems, and I actually bring a few. And this book really blessingly, the poems are short. I just write longer and longer. So because they're so short, I'll read two. This is Song for a Vanished Grandfather's Possible Houses. The man I knew as my grandfather from Latvia was not my grandfather. My biological grandfather died in the Latvian resistance when Latvia got carved up between the Soviets and the Nazis and the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And I adore the man who, for me, will always be my grandfather. But I learned too late in life that some of my father's own real difficulties stemmed from having lost the father he remembered so well. So this is Song for a Vanished Grandfather's Possible Houses. It's for Elmar's Paegle. Since I woke, 4 places I have never been have emerged from the edges of morning. In the fireplace on an ashen hill, a glowing sarcomonte. The view of the tombs from the Alhambra at dusk. From the woodpile, a thin curl of green smoke urging, give him an alm, woman, for there is nothing in this life like being blind in Granada. But there is no blind child, only a charmed swamp thickening to the frozen grass, steaming to an Alabama coast. My sister may have walked here, her 9th month of pregnancy, her 18th year growing along the shore. But there is no ocean, only the bathtub claws staggering under the curving blue belly of a receding giant, running into the fever of the world. And no scraping moraine, only a distant sound like your voice among the ice. Finally, no ice flowers either, just a wind in the hallway and a widening expanse. The great Rift Valley blowing away, uncovering its bones. Okay. So now I'm going to read a poem, and you will all need to help me read this poem. So Nicole and I had the great good luck to work under the wonderful late Aga Shahid Ali, and he was very insistent that we learn how to write, you say it better than I do, ghazals. You have to, you need a little mucus, ghazals, right? And the ghazal is such a wonderful form in that it is comprised of couplets. In those couplets, there is absolute freedom of content. What matters is what happens at the end of the couplet. There is a rhyme followed immediately by a refrain. And one of Shahid didn't have many axes he was grinding, kind of amazing, considering that he was Kashmiri. However, one of his favorite axes was that in English, so many ghazals appear with the refrain, but with no rhyme. I was delighted to learn that some of you brought rotten fruit to the reading, because the ghazal is a fundamentally oral and public form. The idea is that as an expert ghazal what am I? Womankind. I am womankind. I am humankind. I am ghazal kind. That I would adapt my reading of the poem according to the enthusiasm or criticism of the audience about how I hit the rhyme followed by the refrain. So, in Kashmir, all over Iran still, in places in Iraq, these are performed like rock concerts, and if they think you've done well by the structural demands, you get flowers. Feel free to, I don't know, throw champagne. And if you think it was a sellout, too easy, unearned, bring out your workshop parlance. throw the fruit. Okay. What I really need you guys to do, though, is help me with the refrain. Okay? The refrain in this ghazal is a better name. Let's just try that. It's harder to say than you think. A better name.
A better name.
One more time. A better name.
A better name.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay. And the rhyme is Not the prettiest sound in English, but nonetheless, that's the rhyme you're listening for. So when I hit sunder, plunder, lingers, thunders, so forth, it's coming, okay? The first line you get for free, but then be ready for the second line, okay? This is Chessboard ghazal, and my maternal grandfather, Alejandro Noguez, was the chess champion of Argentina most of his life. He played Bobby Fischer. He never won. And Nicole, 7-year-old, has me in checkmate right now because I'm so terrified of not living up. On our map of Aconcagua, red lines sunder, a better name. Rain on topo, pen landslides, plunder, the better name. Lightning runs the metropolitan air, then lingers on its aim. Ciudad de Cúpulas, Buenos Aires, but thunders.
A better name.
Before Perón, they courted among roses, yuccas still aflame. In the plaza's corner, he proposed, and she declined her better.
A better name.
Argentina's Grand Master died in an endgame. What world hovered beyond his board, I wonder?
A better name.
Homelands are lost, a generation fading. Whom will our children claim? Are the unborn in time to gather us together under a better name? Not Trump. Okay. The microphone is misbehaving. All right, and the last poem I will read. I am delighted, so delighted to have help from Lawrence. This is a poem from 12th class. Once we get cranking, it is 7 minutes, and then I'm finished. We're finished. So this is a poem about what I did before I thought I might be able to make it as a poet. I was essentially an environmental earth scientist, and specifically I did geochronology. So I dated rocks, not in the movies, but with various methods of determining their age. And I was very lucky in that the grad TA who helped me as an undergraduate was instrumental in discovering that the moon was way older than previously thought because of a wonderful rock formation up Big Cottonwood Canyon, mostly known for its excellent climbing routes. But the formation contains these, which appeared on my doorstep and which I did not take from the National Forest. These are titled rhythmites, and I'm going to pass them around. And what you will see when you look at the rhythmites is bands of dark and light. And in brief, the darker bands suggest still water because those are small sediment particles wrought of clay, and if the water is still, tide is low, they deposit. The white bands are closer to something like sand grains, quartz. Those are bigger and they only fall out, and more turbulent are from the Precambrian. They're enormously old. And basically, when you see a band of white and a band of dark, it's like seeing a day from all those millennia ago. And I think they're really magical. So this poem is for these rocks. So I do feel duty-bound to quickly read the paper that Todd wrote, which is an epigraph for this poem, Soils Form. The mid to early late Proterozoic Big Cottonwood Formation, Utah, contains some of the oldest known tidal rhythmites. These rhythmites and the estuarine environment they were deposited in provide valuable constraints on Earth-Moon orbital mechanics and the paleogeography of the western margin of North America 900 million years ago. Okay. Remnant.
Purple,
Marl.
pine needles sidle underfoot.
Upslope, a shout repels down strata.
Here, water held commerce with itself and left this
5-kilometer thick hint of a shore where sea swelled river just before the animal kingdom shivered, annelid and medusoid, into the world.
Still, these stripes, black and white, powed and argillite, suggest zebra rather than tide.
But that world, devoid of equus, dripped with tides.
Here is the fallout.
Jet silt trickled from low tide still water.
Ashen sand fallen from high tides, rapid currents.
Black,
White,
black,
tidal lows and highs
aqueous.
in rhythmic stacks.
Liquidity tucked lunar and gone to strata.
The geologists pose their pickaxes by the stone's disclosures, lift their cameras and snap.
2 silt and 2 sand layers represent a single day's too low and too high tides.
The shutter is triggered and the aperture has them.
Individual days and nights from the Precambrian, from when land abutted land in one other continent, before plants fashioned air, back when the day was shorter, the earth spun faster, the moon moved closer, the year wore longer.
Now the planets pour themselves across more orbit, and the world is full of eyes.
Once water scattered detritus.
Between them, silt and sand settled an edge.
Now we measure leavings, their variable rates.
Now our cross-sections illustrate all a fallen grain might tip or intimate.
Epoch or eon,
Niap or ebb.
time is meant by sediment.
Time is this streaky visage, is quartz pounded out in surf all along the living shores, is a thing carried from high, is this thing suspended, is how it falls.
One band of light, one band of dark.
Fluvial,
A day rivered like today, but without the canyon traffic.
no tusks, no savannas,
No tilting telescopes.
no irate Nevadas.
Now we apply our fervent machines, where time is the argon barreling through the vacuum chamber, where time is isotope, is ratio, is sealed from the room, the air, the plants put there, and supercooled fluid, which is glass, which was sand.
The spectrometers fit the Earth's plates into a clockwork universe.
Name,
Atlas.
weight,
The zebras reverse the breath of the savannah.
weight.
The climbers move up the rock.
They powder their fingertips with chalk, name their roots.
Black Monday.
Mass wasting.
Times Square.
Time is falling everywhere.
The climbers slide into their harnesses, swarm around the rhythmites.
They fit their bodies to the rock.
The body stops, modulates its limbs small distances, arrays its weight from the impressions left by 3 May raindrops.
Left crimp.
Fingers curled to tips, tips weighting slate as air weights flame.
Right pull.
Body weight pulling against the palm, all purchase only from this pool.
Stand up.
Just stand up.
Stone invites this choreography, matches every human move.
How can we explain this?
What sorcery torques the cliff's relief so that it makes of each climbing body this symphonic reach?
Ionic bonding.
Staggering.
The climbers repels collapse centuries, and their falls span what grains outlast.
Volcano.
Plasticity.
Clastic.
A ride hitched across the world on the back of a magma plume.
Riverbed tincture.
Riverbed enigma.
Estuary.
Rivers blast quartz to the sea.
The fourth kingdom resumes.
The 5th is pending.
The bristlecone reverses the lion's breath.
One band of water rushing, one band of water slack.
This is the layer where water began splitting,
This is the layer where atoms unmatched,
symphonically,
toehook,
remnant,
making artifacts to touch the infinite, breathing fireweed all the while.
because I want.
A rhythmite in my hand palming.
Nocturnal,
Individual days and nights from back before the world engendered wings.
raindrops ping across radiant energy,
Nanometer,
plates of the earth in tumult,
animals on the verge.
tectonic,
The geologists toss their fossils.
the Belaires shrug their slack.
Because I want to fit myself to the rock.
Because before we walk, we must climb.
Because we come into the world weak as the third syllable and look after.
Because of the disheartening for which both up and downhill may be liable.
Because of the yawn of the awful.
The climbers slouch up the cliff.
The rhythmites herald backflow and crest.
The mass spectrometer raids its samples.
The geologists descant.
The segment is smudged.
My sons stand up, one, then 3 years later, the younger.
Calendars gamble through 7-candle days, the shifting weeks immortal.
I put the rhythmite back, but slightly downslope in the company of Marl.
In the midst of the zebra's gallopade, the mystics fall silent.
When will the sixth of life's kingdoms emerge into the world?
What will that life make of us?
Ancient days and tears.
Time is falling everywhere.
The rhythmites suggest an ocean to the south or west.
Limpid,
Testament,
remnant,
3 circling and encircled spheres.
because of all the planets, this is the only one that has managed magic and its distance from the sun.
Because I want very badly to manage.
To fit myself to the right distance, the way a body harnessed over crevasse will fit itself precisely to a moving prayer, itself the shape of the displaced air.
High life.
Alpenbach,
The ancient shore has slanted to mountain, myths tucked in its sands, waiting for someone to see them.
what are we waiting for?
Turn,
Light bending,
carmine,
cerulean,
because the sun,
because life should outlive us,
because the fifth kingdom risks.
because the sixth is pending. Thank you.